hold on to your pockets, because the 1966 United States dime tucked into your change jar might just be worth more than its 10-cent face value suggests. Struck in a year when America was deep into transition, socially, politically, and economically, this coin carries a story that reaches beyond its shiny copper-nickel surface. Every line in the profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, every groove in its reeded edge, and every glint of metal whispers secrets waiting for an eagle-eyed collector to spot them. Let's begin by uncovering how this seemingly ordinary dime quietly established itself as a prized contender in the world of numismatics. The story of the 1966 dime starts in a post-war America eager to streamline its coinage. By then, Roosevelt's portrait, chosen in 1946 to honor his leadership during World War II and the founding of the March of Dimes, had been in circulation for 2 decades. Yet the mid-1960s presented a massive shift. Rising silver prices prompted the U.S. Mint to phase out precious metals from everyday coins. In 1965, dimes transitioned from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition, but 1966 coins were the first full year produced entirely without silver. That change inadvertently created a split between the last of the silver issues, rare as hen's teeth, and the new clad dimes that would define modern circulation. It's ironic that the very act meant to save the Treasury's bottom line now fuels collector fever. At first glance, a 1966 dime looks identical to its predecessors. Roosevelt's profile facing left on the obverse, a torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse. But expert collectors know to look for mint marks, die varieties, and minting anomalies. Since no mint marks appeared on Philadelphia coinage from 1965 through 1967, genuine 1966 Philadelphia dimes bear a smooth date, without a letter. However, proof versions, struck for collectors on special polished blanks, carry an S mint mark and exhibit frosted devices against mirrored fields. Spotting a proof S example among circulation strike dimes can instantly elevate its status from pocket change to shelf standout. What makes certain 1966 dimes particularly rare are the so-called full torch and full bands designations. On the reverse, the 3 horizontal bands on each side of the torch represent liberty, unity, and strength. Coins with fully struck, uninterrupted bands, 12 lines total that extend edge to edge, are prized for their sharpness and detail. Many circulation strikes show weakly defined bands or breaks, but finding one with that crisp, full band signature signals meticulous die maintenance and limited use between die polishing, traits collectors chase aggressively. Beyond full bands, look for extra sharp strikes where the torch flame flickers with crisp individual tongues, a subtle sign of a fresh die. Over the past few decades, auction records for pristine 1966 proof dimes and full band circulation strikes have climbed steadily. In early 2024, a deep mirror proof 65 surfaced in a heritage auction, selling for over $1,200 in proof 70 grade, the highest possible condition rating. Meanwhile, a 1966 Philadelphia circulation strike dime, graded MS67 full bands, brought nearly $500, a hefty premium over its basal value of just a few dollars. These numbers reflect both the scarcity of flawless examples and the growing demand among seasoned collectors who recognize subtle minting perfection as the ultimate talisman. When a single die variety can shift a coin's value by orders of magnitude, serious collectors learn to scrutinize every tiny detail under magnification. Beyond its technical appeal, the 1966 dime carries intriguing anecdotes. During the nationwide coin shortage of the mid-1960s, citizens hoarded silver coins, prompting banks to ration dimes and quarters. Some communities even issued temporary wooden tokens in lieu of small change. In that environment, the debut of the clad 1966 dime ignited fierce curiosity. Children thinking their new dimes were novelty tokens, elderly patrons scrutinizing each piece for lingering traces of silver. Today, that cultural backdrop adds a human dimension to every coin you inspect. Imagine a clerk at a grocery counter rifling through a pile of brand-new dimes, hoping for a flash of silver, only to find the steel gray finish reflecting the overhead lights. When it comes to condition, nuance reigns supreme. A well-circulated 1966 clad dime, scuffed and dulled, might fetch only its face value plus a small dealer premium. Yet mint state examples, free of bag marks or contact abrasions, command exponentially higher prices. An MS63 specimen could be worth $15 to $25, while the jump from MS67 to MS68 often multiplies that value tenfold. For proof dimes, surface preservation is everything. Spots, hairlines, or loss of mirror finish can shave hundreds off the final bid, so collectors prize only those with deep, uninterrupted fields. Some of the most sought-after pieces reside in specialized Purple Heart sets distributed by the Mint, lovingly preserved in original packaging and seldom released into the secondary market. Societies and registry sets play a pivotal role in fueling interest. Members of the American Numismatic Association, ANA, and the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, registry compete to assemble the finest 1966 dime sets, driving up demand for top-graded Proof 70 and MS68 specimens. In fact, the PCGS census records fewer than a dozen examples graded MS68 full bands, making each one a mini-legend among specialists. When one of these ultra-gem coins crosses the auction block, the spotlight intensifies, and even near-top grades see a ripple effect in pricing. Digging deeper, you might stumble upon intriguing error varieties. While fully clad compositions prevented silver-related mistakes, other anomalies persisted. Slight off-center strikes, doubled dies on the date or lettering, and filled dies that produced weak or rough surfaces. These quirks, though not as dramatic as bronze-dipped coins of the 1940s, still command a following. A 1966 dime with a faint doubling on the date, authenticated and graded, can fetch 2 to 3 times the value of its error-free counterpart in similar condition. Storage and provenance also shape market value. Coins with documented pedigrees, coming from the original mint packaging or well-publicized collections, carry an aura of authenticity that dealers and buyers prize. Conversely, problems like improper cleaning, environmental damage, or mounting holes in cardboard holders can dramatically lower desirability. Collectors often scrutinize holder labels, provenance notes, and even shipping receipts when chasing that next big find. Now that we've unlocked the hidden depths and dazzling details of the 1966 dime, you'll see why even a single glance under a loupe can spark excitement. From mint state marvels to proof-only treasures, this humble 10-cent piece offers a window into America's economic and cultural shifts. Next, we'll turn our attention to the 1965 dime, an even more transitional issue with a handful of rare errors that make it a treasure trove for anyone who guesses that each coin has a secret story waiting to be told. Sliding seamlessly from the mid-1960s, we arrive at a coin that's practically fresh out of the 20th century's minting presses, the 1995 Roosevelt dime. At first blush, it might look like the everyday change you've been spending at coffee shops for decades, but veteran collectors know better. Beneath that familiar profile of President Roosevelt lies a host of subtle surprises, minting experiments, error varieties, and a handful of gems that quietly fetch five-figure sums when they surface. Let's peel back the layers on this modern issue and see why even a seemingly common 1995 dime can send a thrill through an experienced collector's veins. The 1995 dime was struck at two primary facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia pieces carry no mint mark, while Denver coins bear a small D on the obverse. That year, the U.S. Mint was testing new polishing techniques and metal formulations to improve strike consistency at high volumes. As a result, planchet blanks sometimes emerged with microscopically rougher surfaces, what collectors later dubbed a satin finish trial. These satin finish circulation strikes, identified by their subtly frosted appearance compared to the usual satiny luster, slipped into regular rolls without fanfare. Decades later, a handful graded MS67 satin earned prices of $150 to $200 simply because they represent an undocumented experiment in large-scale production. At a glance, the design remains classic. Roosevelt's dignified portrait on the obverse, flanked by the mottos Liberty and I in God We Trust, and the date cheek by jowl with the mint mark. Turn it over, and the torch, olive branch, and oak sprig on the reverse signal the same ideals of liberty, peace, and strength. Yet subtle dye variations make all the difference. Among Denver strikes, analysts have cataloged at least 4 distinct dye pairs, differentiated by the positioning of the mint mark and the depth of the torch's reeds. One rare dye, nicknamed the high-relief torch, produced extra-sharp reeds and a slightly raised surface that catches light differently. A single MS66 specimen of that variety brought $320 in a 2023 auction. Errors in 1995 dimes took several forms. Off-center strikes remain the most visually dramatic. Coins misaligned by even 1.5 millimeters reveal partial doubling of words or a thickened rim where metal flowed onto the die's edge. One Denver off-center error, graded EF45 but with dramatic displacement, fetched $275. It's where only adding to the sculptural depth of the misprint. More unusual is the clad layer split error. On rare occasions, the cupronickel layering would separate, revealing a thin copper streak circling the rim. Collectors drool over these splits. A near-perfect MS63 split clad sold for $600 when it emerged from a Virginia coin show in 2022. Beyond mechanical mishaps, proof coins struck at San Francisco that year reveal another chapter in the dime saga. The annual proof set included a deep mirror proof S dime, and in 1995 the mint experimented with a Felix strike, once struck proof, intended to give collectors a glimpse at how a freshly polished die interacts with planchets at actual production speeds. The result: proof dimes with subtly different cameo contrasts and slightly muted frost on Roosevelt's profile. Those once struck proofs, instantly recognizable by a faint halo of extra-sharp fields around the devices, have traded hands for $800 to $1,100 in gem-proof 6.9 grading. Remarkable for coins barely 3 decades removed from the press. Auction archives show a steady climb in high-grade values. A pristine MS68 Denver dime with a high-relief torch variety topped $500 in late 2024, while the satin finish MS67 from Philadelphia hit $225. Proof 70S dimes hover at $650 to $700, but the once struck Felix strike proofs, because of their experimental nature, often leap into 4-figure territory when fresh to market. The lesson? Even modern coins can be scarce when the mint tweaks processes under the radar. Stories from the trenches of coin rolling expeditions add to the lore. In 2019, a hobbyist in Ohio reported finding a fully brilliant, untuned MS65 satin finish dime in a bank-wrapped roll, an anomaly, since most satin trials bear slight bag marks. That single dime, now encased in a graded holder, sold privately for $325. Such tales fuel late-night online chats where collectors swap tips on spotting satin versus regular finishes. Look for a softer glow and a faint chalkiness under bright LED lamps. Condition remains king. Circulated 1995 dimes, scratched or dulled by everyday handling, rarely rise above face value plus a buck or two, even if they carry an interesting die variety. But mint state survivors, MS63 and above, can see steep premiums. MS63 standard pieces fetch $7 to $10. MS65 satin finish goes for $50 to $75. MS67 satin commands $150 to $200. On the proof side, examples graded PR68 cameo stretch into the $400 range, while PR70 cameo dimes crest $650. The once struck proofs defy typical schedules. PR69 lands around $850, and a flawless PR70 Felix strike routinely clears $1,200. Beyond raw grading, provenance shapes desirability. Coins preserved in original mint-issued red felt liners or wooden case inserts carry an air of untouched heritage. Collectors will pay 10 to 15% more for a satin finish specimen still accompanied by its original 1995 mint packaging slip. Conversely, flips or holders that show evidence of pressure spots, glue residue, or temperature warping can hammer a dime's value back down by as much as 30%. As the 1995 Roosevelt dime demonstrates, modern doesn't mean mundane. Whether you're chasing the ghostly outline of an off-center strike, seeking the soft glow of an undocumented satin finish, or coveting the fleeting glimpse of an experimental one-strike proof, this 3-decade-old issue rewards careful eyes and patient rolls. Next up, We'll stitch together the threads from all three dimes we've explored and reveal how their stories intertwine, culminating in insights that every collector, whether a seasoned veteran or someone who just uncovered a dusty roll in a drawer, can use to unlock hidden value. Every coin you hold tells a layered story, but when you line up the 1966, the 1965, and the 1995 Roosevelt dimes side by side, you witness a three-decade narrative of innovation, adaptation, and the thrill of unanticipated discovery. Let's wind back the clock to the summer of 1966, when change, both literal and figurative, was in the air. The nation grappled with the end of silver in its small change, and the mint responded by ushering in copper-nickel-clad dimes. Yet hidden among the millions of new coins were those rare gems with full bands on the reverse, proof only S, mint marks glinting in the light, and proof 70 offerings commanding five-figure bids for their mirror-like perfection. You learned how subtle deviations in die maintenance produced those coveted 12 uninterrupted lines beside the torch, and how conditioned surfaces propelled MS67 specimens into the hundreds of dollars. But beyond price tags, the 1966 dime embodies a snapshot of an era when metal markets and public sentiment collided, ushering in a new chapter for every pocket-clutched coin. From that pivotal moment, we step back 1 year to 1965, when the mint scrambled to replace silver planchets that collectors were hoarding at unprecedented rates. Rolls of half-dollars and quarters vanished from bank tills, and the air buzzed with rumors of vanished silver, prompting a transitional dance between old and new. You explored the off-center strikes that literally missed their mark by millimeters, the filled die flaws that left matte, flat spots on Roosevelt's cheek, and the ghostly blockage that captured the impression of a neighboring coin. Those irregularities weren't manufacturing failures so much as accidental fingerprints left by hurried presses running overtime. And while a standard MS65 1965 dime might sell for a modest sum, the moment you spot an error coin, one that disrupts your perception of uniformity, you're peering into a rare intersection of chance, machinery, and human oversight that transforms base metal into treasure. Fast forward to a more recent past, 1995. You might have thought that by then the mint's processes were so refined that error coins and experimental varieties would be extinct, yet the 1995 dime proves otherwise. Satin finish trials slipped into circulation, their soft frosted surfaces waiting decades to be recognized by sharp-eyed hobbyists. Once struck, Felix strike, proofs offered a fleeting glimpse into production-speed coining experiments, their cameo contrasts whispering of presses operating at full tilt. Some Denver pieces emerged with high-relief torch dies, creating sharper reeds that play with light like miniature solar flares. Even the clad layer splits that expose a copper seam around the rim testify to the ongoing alchemy of metal and minting science. These nuances show that innovation isn't confined to the distant past. It's woven into every blank planchet that passes through modern presses. What unites these three distinct years is more than shared design motifs. It's the way collectors rally around the unexpected. The Mint's official narrative focuses on standardized issues, annual production counts, and public coin programs. But collectors write their own stories on coin forums, at local shows, and in catalog annotations. They chase registry points not just for dazzling numerical grades, but for eye appeal, provenance, and that intangible wow factor that a coin with a perfect cameo or a ghost-like misprint can deliver. You've walked through record-setting auctions where a single dime earned over $1,200, then turned around and marveled at how a dusty roll reveal can yield a satin finish 1995 specimen worth hundreds to the finder. And yet, as you've seen, context shapes value. The same off-center 1965 dime that sparked a $350 auction might languish in a mixed dealer bin if its error is too slight to catch the average shopper's eye. A pristine Proof 70 1966 dime shines under the lights of a convention hall, but only if it's accompanied by original red and white box packaging to confirm its untouched origin. Satin dimes from 1995 need careful lighting to reveal their subtle sheen, and they demand fresh eyes to distinguish them from standard circulation strikes. That means collectors must cultivate patience and education, learning to spot tiny die markers and unusual surface finishes that evade casual inspection. storage and provenance, too, have emerged as twin pillars of modern numismatics. You read about mylar flips and UV blocking capsules, nitrile gloves, and rigid coin trays. Those best practices preserve surfaces and protect lustrous fields, but they also help maintain a documented chain of ownership. A coin rescued from a family collection, accompanied by uncle's original grading receipt and photos of the package it arrived in decades ago, carries an emotional resonance that pure grade points cannot replicate. Conversely, a once prized gem can lose luster if improperly cleaned, scratched by everyday handling, or stored in PVC-lined holders that invite green or blue oxidation spots. That reality underscores the responsibility collectors bear, not only to preserve the history embedded in each coin, but to transmit it intact to the next generation. Financial volatility in the market offers another angle. During the remote auction boom of 2020, Proof 70 sales surged as collectors, confined to their homes, bid aggressively on high-grade rarities. Standard circulation strikes, by contrast, softened when dealers offloaded bulk lots online, flooding the market with cleaned or questionable examples. These cycles teach a vital lesson. Timing is everything. Observing mailing lists, attending preview events, and nurturing dealer relationships can mean the difference between securing a satin finish MS67 at a bargain or watching it slip through your fingers at full retail. As you chase these elusive rarities, remember that supply and demand curves can be as unpredictable as the error coins you seek. If there's a single thread weaving through the 1966, 1965, and 1995 dimes, it's the enduring appeal of discovery, that primal thrill when you lift the coin, catch a glint in the die, and realize you're holding something rare, perhaps one of only a handful in existence. That moment transcends metal value. It connects you to the mint's history, to the dozen or so collectors who documented each known die state, and to the spirited auctions where bidding paddles clashed in pursuit of perfection. It's an experience as tactile as running your finger over Roosevelt's cheek, and as cerebral as debating the relative merits of full bands versus satin finish. Finally, embrace stewardship as part of your collector's ethos. When you acquire a rare dime, whether it's a full bands 1966, an off-center 1965, or a satin finish 1995, treat it as a piece of living history. Preserve it in inert packaging, document its provenance, and consider sharing your finds in numismatic publications or forums. Every shared photo, every write-up of a registry set, adds to the collective knowledge of this vibrant community. In doing so, you ensure that the next generation of collectors will uncover the same thrill you did, qualities spinning within a tiny disc of metal. As you clamp that dime between your fingertips tonight, let its weight remind you of its journey. From planchet blanks to humming coining presses to the slow crawl of time lying dormant in a pocket or envelope. Every scratch, every frosted band, and every glint tells a tale of technological evolution, market forces, and human curiosity. Whether you're an experienced veteran chasing registry perfection or someone who just stumbled upon a dusty roll in grandma's dresser, these coins offer endless chapters of discovery. And as long as the hunt continues, numismatics will remain more than a hobby. It will be a perpetual voyage into history, science, and the art of uncovering the extraordinary within the ordinary.